I'm Shaneika Johnson-Simms. My pronouns are she, her. And essentially, my career is that I'm a filmmaker, but I like to use the term storyteller. I feel that's very descriptive of what I do. So I work as a writer, producer, director on features, short, and also branded content as the world has changed and everyone likes to scroll and watch vertical content. In my personal time, I love playing games like Fortnite. I like watching people stream on Twitch. I love watching YouTube. People say I'm more like a Gen Z than a millennial, which I'm not going to argue about. Why not? I just like to embrace what's happening and what people are into just to keep, you know, my eyes focused on what the next couple of things could be in the next couple of years. And yeah, and lately I've been enjoying going on walks. I love the sun. I call myself a sun chaser. If the sun's out, I want to be outside as well. And that's who I am in a nutshell.
You mentioned the switch of branded content and how that's changed. How recently have you felt like that's impacted your professional work? And what has that transition been like as a storyteller?
Yeah, that's so interesting because I would say when I was in uni, Instagram was around, but it was more when people just took like pictures of their food. The term influencer wasn't really there. So when I graduated, the first project that my husband and I did as a company was we had to interpret a 20-page report into a film. And we did like a narrative film. And once we did that edit, we realized let's make a shorter edit. Let's get more experimental. Let's use voiceovers and other clips. And that was when we started to realize, okay, people are leaning more towards shorter instead of just longer. And I'll say from 2016 onwards, that's when branded content, social content has really ramped up and it's become an offering that you have to do. Even if you do strictly films or documentaries, there's going to be some form of branded content in there, whether you want to create a trailer or anything. You have to just play within that language of grabbing people within the first, I'll say second now. It's not even 7 seconds. You have to grab them as soon as, because there's so much competition. They can just scroll and just watch their favorite content creator. They don't have to watch your actual narrative film. So yeah, from 2016 onwards, that's when I've really seen it just increase, budgets increase, go away because now everyone can make content, so they can just exploit someone to do it for cheap or for free. Even I remember somebody on LinkedIn was like, "I want to pay someone £25 to film for 6 hours and to also edit it," and I was like, "There is someone out there that will do it for the experience." So yeah, the landscape is very different.
Wow. Wow.
I know, gobsmacking, right?
Yeah.
£25.
How do you compete with that, or how do you find that? Because clearly, like, your expertise is different than someone that's just coming to content creation through having grown up with a phone. How do you separate those out?
That's interesting. For me personally, I always tell people, and I always try to tell myself, you have to make personal projects. You have to make pieces of work that are true to you, that are an expression of what you want to say. If you keep yourself in that bubble of, okay, I'm just going to try and book the next client, and that's all you do, then you do have to play within that field of being super competitive with pricing. But if, as you're doing that, you're also creating your own work, you can then have something more unique about yourself because you might be a production company that has a certain style to yourself. You're not just doing what anyone else can do, you have a niche within a niche, which I think is super important, especially as you compete against so many people you don't even know about because there's so many people doing it. If you do keep connecting with yourself and make work without being told to make work, that's when you can uncover something that's quite unique. And that's what clients want. They don't want the same thing again and again as well. They might keep getting pitched that, but that's because that's what a lot of people are doing. So the more you can kind of break out that box, the better.
Do you think this is like a good change, and do you think it'll affect like other forms of filmmaking?
I do think it's a good change. A lot of people disagree with me because there is this kind of turning up your nose at the people that make content instead of making films and making TV. But the truth of the matter is, to make a TV show, there's a lot of gatekeepers, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. Even if you want your film to be funded, people will tell you, okay, I want you to cast this actor instead of that actor. So already the film or the project you are passionate about becomes it becomes a product. And as more fingers get involved, it becomes less authentic to the creator. That's my personal opinion. So even in my career, as much as I can, I try and make work independently. I see myself as like a tech startup. I bootstrap every piece of money or pennies we make, we put straight back into our productions because that allows you to stay fresh and not always chase what's happening. And I do think it changes how people make films because it's more accessible. Voices that haven't had the chance to be heard are getting heard. And that's a great thing because it shows that you don't have to be from an elite family or know someone that makes films. You can take your phone and your talent and working hard can now mean something instead of it just being a, oh, it's a shame we don't have the exposure. The internet is the thing that has disrupted a lot of industries and it's given us a chance to even the playing field.
I'd be remiss not to mention that as we're recording this, I don't know what it will be like when our audience listens to this, but Hollywood is on strike right now. Within the past 24 hours, Netflix lost like a couple $1 billion in value. I'm curious if you can talk a little to what's going on and what you think about it.
What I think about the strikes is it's something that I saw coming, and I think a lot of people in the creative industry saw coming as well. A show that I can use as a reference would be The Office, the US version. It has such a cult following. It's on Netflix. I believe at one point it was also on Amazon Prime. As we watch it and enjoy it, a lot of the people involved in the heavy lifting do not make any more money. And if they do, it's nothing compared to what the people that buy the license or, make. And it just comes to ownership a lot of the time. Owning your IP is something that is becoming more important nowadays. I believe Michaela Cole also said Netflix offered her $1 million, but they wanted ownership of the IP and she turned it down. Because as a creator, if you know your not so much your worth, but the IP is the thing that is probably going to make the most money, not the product itself, but the IP. And even Pitch Perfect, I remember listening to your podcast, and she was like, she wrote the script, and then of course it became a big hit. There's pajamas with her words on it. She doesn't make money from that, so it becomes this murky waters, blurred lines, and without Hollywood standing up and say, you know what, fair enough, there are movie stars and there's writers that maybe can live off the paycheck they make at that one pay, but there are a lot of actors that can't, and they are working actors. And if you get paid a flat fee, how disheartening is it to know that your flat fee is nothing compared to the amount of money multiple different companies and producers can make off your performance? And they got paid a flat fee at one point as well, but they keep getting their money back out. It's hard and it's weird, but that's the reason why I've always kind of tiptoed around really going forward and going into that deep world of Hollywood or even, just working with broadcasters. If you don't own your IP, you just won't make money. Somebody else will make money. I always say if somebody offers you X amount, it's because they can make 4 times that off you, you know? Because
Wow.
as a business owner, you have to think about it like that. If you're gonna pay a staff member, I don't know, like 30,000 a year, it's because you think you can make 90,000 based on their contributions, or it wouldn't really make sense. You're not gonna go broke hiring someone. So that's essentially what's happening in Hollywood. It's just that the actors are constantly reminded how popular their work is and how much money it makes because it keeps being brought up, and people still like imagine a design you made is still being talked about, still making money. Like you'd feel that, okay, where do I get some more of it? Everyone else is making money. What about me? And it's about the hierarchy and the pecking order. It's very political. I think that's why it's important to own your IP and build an audience for yourself. Because if you do audience sharing, of course, the person with the audience, e.g., Netflix, Amazon, are going to make the most money because they're bringing the eyes to the project. But I think now it's making a lot of creatives think about ownership and also percentage split and making it fair.
I think the intersection of some of the things we're talking about of the creators in Hollywood and then the creators on, everybody now and the shifts in technologies. I'm curious if you have thoughts on AI being used in storytelling as well.
Oh, that is, do you know what? With I heard about Chat GPT because I'm on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn, as soon as something becomes a little bit buzzworthy, everyone's writing articles and trying to be like the expert. And then my husband, who's also my business partner, was like, let's see what this is because he heard someone tell him, oh, like it can write a script for you. And I said, okay, I wouldn't say far fetched. I was like, that's interesting because anyone can write a script, but is it a good script? Does it really have all the tropes? Is it too cliche? And he put a prompt in, and you know what, Zach? Like, it was actually quite good.
Really?
That's the thing. Yeah, it was actually quite good. And I'm not, I wouldn't call, I'm not a hater at my core, but I was expecting it to be quite, bland and quite predictable. But it was actually really good. And I was like, you know what? If you understand how to use it and the prompts, you can actually generate something that at least is a baseline. And from there, you can edit and refine it. It doesn't mean that you leave it there. And I think AI is it's interesting because it allows you to cut corners, but I do believe that if you cut corners, they will come back to bite you. For me, it's interesting, but nothing compares to the human experience, the human brain, collaboration, those things you can't replace. But if you want to cut corners and you feel like the writer is the person that causes the most headache, you could essentially get a baseline outline and just get a bunch of people to refine it. And it's a shame, it's sad, but I do think you can tell when something is generated by AI. I personally don't use AI in my creative work. Even right now, like with writing like scripts or anything or prompts, I try to do it myself because I think not that people could tell, but I enjoy that part of the process. And if that's gone, then what's left really? The soul becomes drained from a project.
I guess that's my biggest concern with AI is not, I think it can be a tool for creatives or creators of any kind, but I worry that the executives that we were just talking about see the soulless output and go, great, that's enough. And that without the editing, without the human element,
Yeah.
without the writers still making it have a soul.
But then you can argue that in industry, when it gets to a certain point, it loses its soul because it has to think about, breaking even, profits. Like most films as well, they get their money through selling it before it's even made. So there's really that pressure on the producers, the directors, everyone at the starting point. This has to make money. So when something has to make money, to a degree, creativity and passion and ooh la la la, it has to go out the window because now it's a business. It's a level of a business that I've personally not experienced, handling hundreds and millions of dollars, people's livelihoods, people paying them more. That's what it's getting to. It's make or break. So you can argue that there's no room for soul if your sole purpose is to make double what it costs.
Right. Yeah. The money motivation is I think sometimes an antithesis of the creation.
Yeah. And films now, even though technology is more accessible, that means the films have to be up another level because if we can make what they make, we wouldn't pay to watch what they've made. So now they're just going above and beyond with the movie stars and the Marvel and the DCs, and some of them aren't doing so well recently.
Yeah.
But then they're still a cool fan base. So then the goal for them is to really amp it up a film at least a year, which is hard to do if one film a year on that scale. But these studios are sometimes producing two to three, if not four. And you can't do that and literally focus on every single element. You just can't. Something has to give.
Well, hopefully it's not the soul of the industry.
Hopefully. I'm interested to see what the outcome will be, but I would say I don't think AI should be, in my opinion, the biggest focus on what they're fighting for. It's so new that of course you wouldn't want anyone to replicate your performance, but I'm pretty sure that's something that you could just add in like in the contract. I think it's more the ownership of the films and the productions. And if a film, you get paid, I don't know, 1 million to make it, but then it's streaming and the producers are still making money. I think it is fair that to some degree that the actors make money. But then you can say, can every actor in the film make money? Because then what money is left to make is tricky. Because then does that only apply to the movie stars? What about the supporting actors or the actors that we kind of know their faces but not fully? Do they
Mhm.
make money every time their work is screened or just the movie stars? It's tough.
It's super tough. Yeah, and then everyone that's not on screen, they also deserve to continue making money.
Exactly. So then it's okay. There's pie here. But we don't want it to be like a school pizza pie where you get the skinniest slice of pizza. It needs to be considerable size, or else people will then still be unhappy. But sometimes you just can't win in life. Not every It's not fair, so someone's gonna get the short end of the stick, and that's why you should try and own your projects or create your own projects. Or even if you are creative, if there's something else you can do that can generate something. You just got to always think about yourself. So if you are in those collaborative situations where you know in your heart you're not going to get the big payout, you've got yourself covered. And I feel that as creatives, there's a lot of, the starving artist trope and everything else. We've got to think about the long term and not just rely on being brought into something bigger. Because if you're not the creative director or someone quite, you know, significant on the org chart, chances are you're not going to get the big payout.
I would love to hear your thoughts on someone that wants to become a storyteller or get into content creation. I think now is a great time to bring up that you and I met in the Super High Plus program. We're both building courses for Super High Plus right now. So, I wonder if you could talk maybe like general advice for someone that wants to start making content, and then maybe you could plug your course, tell us what it's about.
The main advice I'll give someone that wants to make content or tell stories is you have to be consistent. And I'll allow you to roll your eyes and I'll continue speaking to whoever's listening to this, because consistency is the difference between making it and not making it. It doesn't matter how talented you are. You can have natural talent running through your veins. If you are not consistent, if you do not show up, the only people that are going to know you're talented is yourself and maybe a few friends and family members. You have to keep putting yourself out there. And if you're shy about it, you need to work on that and hone your reasons why you're doing it to make it more of a reason for you to do it. It has to be a desire. It can't be, oh, I want to make content now because everyone else is. You have to have a real reason why you want to make it, or else it's just never going to be that important to you. It's going to be something that you dip in and out of. It's like our course, right? If we applied on the whim, think it was fun, and then we got accepted, the amount of work that goes into making the course, you will drop out. You will embarrassingly have to take your hat off and be like, I'm so sorry, everyone. I wasted the spot. It seemed fun, but I'm not passionate about it. You have to have passion about the things that you claim you want to do. And you can test it out. And if it's not for you, accept that. But don't live in this limbo where you're half hearted about it because there's so many people doing it. You have to be determined. And if you are determined, my course that I'm producing is an intro to content creation. And the main part that I want people to remember is the mindset behind it. You have to be mentally prepared and understand why you're doing what you're doing. And this goes for, I guess, any discipline. If you have no why or no North Star, you're just going to feel kind of aimless about doing it. So, yeah, really think and speak to yourself before you announce it to all your friends and family that you're going to be a content creator or a filmmaker. Like, really figure out why. Because if the why isn't strong enough, it's such a hard industry to break into. It's a hard industry to make money in, that you could just do something else and you have a much easier life. You won't deal with the rejection constantly. You get paid on time. You don't have to deal with any of those annoying things.
I'm really curious because I always think consistency is the tip that I give for presentation design, which is my specialty. So I very aligned with that advice. But I'm curious what you think with like, let's say you're on YouTube or TikTok making content. I feel like the trends change so quickly, and that some of the advice is to always kind of chase what's going viral at the time, what's trending, what's the, everyone's using the same sound and doing the same sort of video to catch on the wave. How do you balance those two and like still remain kind of authentic?
I think the way to balance the two is to really stay in the niche within your niche. So, for example, if my niche was helping content creators and my niche within that niche is to help creators that are shy, then that's going to be the type of content I make. And if there's a trending sound that I can make it apply to a video idea, then great, I can use that. And then I might bring in some new audiences while staying true to my current audience. I think the issue is when somebody flip flops and they make, okay, everyone's doing mukbangs. I'm going to make a mukbang. Oh, everyone's adding like NPCs. I'm going to add like an NPCs. Don't try and chase the overall video types. You can still use the sounds, but really focus and play the long game. If you're not going to play the long game, you're actually not playing anything at all because you're switching games all the time. And if you're not progressing and you're just starting things and leaving them, you're not going to ever progress. So it's hard because when you see something that you notice and then all of a sudden it becomes super popular, you might feel like, dang, I missed the boat. But if you stay consistent and build within your niche, you'll get rewarded. It's hard though, because there is so much happening and so many people are doing different things. But just remember, what legacy are you trying to build? If you're trying to build that legacy, then fine. But if not, focus, tunnel vision, which is super hard on the internet while scrolling, but try and have the tunnel vision.
Well, speaking of playing the long game, what advice do you have for someone that's maybe been content creating or filmmaking for a really long time? And maybe they feel like they missed the boat in the other way, like they maybe don't have TikTok yet, or they're struggling to adapt to all these changes that have happened since 2016.
Sometimes you don't have to adapt if you don't feel like the format is for you. And I say this because there's nothing worse than forcing yourself to go into a box that you do not fit in. Some people are not made to make TikTok. Some people are long form people. And there's still something very special about long form video, whether it's a film or documentary. I don't think there's anyone that will say they wouldn't watch something long form if the topic really enticed them and they enjoyed it. You don't have to then abandon everything you've built for all those years just to be a TikTok star. Even I personally, I wouldn't say I have abandoned long form. I'm working on a few documentaries now and TV because that's my passion personally. I like content because I enjoy digesting it. I feel like my filmmaking skills transfer very well. So therefore, I could teach that topic, but am I going to fully invest and become a full-time TikToker or YouTuber? No. And I think it's good to understand how deep you're willing to go within these new realms. A lot of people, they just wipe the table clean and start again and wipe the table clean and start again. It's like deleting Twitter because there's threads. You don't have to do that. You can still be on Twitter and explore something new and decide if it's for you or not. But like I said, it's like the long game. If you've been making films and you've been telling stories for, I don't know, like 10 years, you should still do that while still exploring TikTok. Maybe TikTok could be your behind the scenes diary. It doesn't mean you have to throw everything away. Just see how new technologies and new platforms can help improve or give a new stance to what you're making.
Let's talk a little bit more about some of the systemic issues in the field. I think like this question could be kind of open to you. I think there's lots to talk about. There's people talk about people of color and trans people being deprioritized and deplatformed on TikTok. There's plenty of problems with the comment section on YouTube. In filmmaking, there's it's a boys club still. Yeah, I think I'll leave it open to you to talk about what you think is the worst kind of issues and how we're dealing with them.
I think the worst issue is when somebody looks at the landscape and they are put off by joining it because they don't see themselves reflected. That is the most damaging outcome when there isn't representation on all levels. And that's every single combination, probably combinations I haven't even thought of or have seen myself. As a Black woman, especially when I was starting out, I think Ava DuVernay was coming out, there was Amma Shanti, of course, Oprah's not a filmmaker, but Oprah Winfrey because Oprah. There are a few people that I can look up to, but I know there are other people that within their communities in the mainstream that they haven't got that level of representation. But I always try to remind myself and I tell other people that try not to see yourself as the boxes you may tick on a form. See yourself as what you can bring and the stories you can tell. Because if I really did see myself as just a Black woman from inner city London that has no connections to the film industry, I definitely wouldn't start that career because already, if I'm looking at it, pros and cons, all these cons, what are the pros? But when I look at myself, I'm like, I like to tell stories. I'm confident in what I want to say. Then, yeah, that industry is perfect for me. And I think I'm not trying to dismiss the lack of representation, but the aim should be that if we can push through and have that tunnel vision and play the long game, that we can be that representation for the next generation coming up. And that's why I love the internet. I love it so much because it gives people the chance to create without having to get permission from Tom, Dick, and Harry. You can say, "This is the film I want to make. I don't need your money to make it. I don't need your cameras to make it. I don't need your platform to make it. I can do that all on my own. I can build a website. I can have a newsletter. I can stream. I can post on Instagram. I can, hold my own events. I could do all these things because I have the internet and I'm tenacious and I do not care what anyone thinks." And it sounds a bit, you know, bold. Who the hell do you think you are? But you've got to believe you can. You've got to do affirmations in the mirror. You've got to literally carry yourself like you can achieve it. And you've got to be able to see it. If you can't see yourself at that level, you will never get there because there's going to be people telling you can't anyway, whether it's in the comment sections or on the street or even to your face. I've had that said to me several times. But then you just got to, it's water off a duck's back, right? You know you can do it. You've chosen to do it. You're not an idiot. You wouldn't start a career knowing you're going to fail. So you're going to succeed. It might not be today or tomorrow next year, but the more you work on it and build on your craftsmanship, the more likely you're going to be ready for when your big time comes. I always tell people, don't be upset your time hasn't come. Whether you want to be completely ready and fully trained and then be able to do your best. You don't want it to come before you're ready. We've seen a lot of people get their big break before they're ready in many different industries and ways. And we see how painful it can be to see that opportunity not get grabbed with both hands and feet. So you want to, hone it. So when you get that platform, you just execute and you kill it, and everyone around you is so proud of you because they know the work you put in. You don't want to be handed things. I personally, I wouldn't want to be a nepo baby. I would want to work for it. I want to understand and learn on my own. I wouldn't mind my child being a nepo baby because I've done the hard work and I could tell him, okay, this is what you do because I know that I'll make sure he's properly trained. He's not going to come in with an ego. But I think for me, it suits me having to learn this way. It suits me. And I like it as well. It's a story to tell and it builds grit. And the journey is the only thing promised to us. That's a quote I heard, and it really stuck to me. You're not promised the Academy Awards. You're not promised, Design of the Year. You're promised now. And if you hate this part, you're not going to enjoy getting to the top because it gets harder.
That really stuck with me as well. I really like that. I'm gonna keep that one too.
It's funny when you think about it. It is just a journey. Every day is a journey. You could plan the future, you can dwell on the past, but you can only control right now. If I wanted to, I could just hang up and just be that weird person. And Zach would be like, oh God, she really just hung up. Okay. As we live life, we have choices. And I think we forget how powerful we are because sometimes we do feel powerless, but you have power in the choices you make. And that's why I always say be consistent because that's the only power you have. People have the power to kick you off a platform. They have the algorithm has the power, but only you have the power to continue and to push through. So focus on what you can control and not what you can't control.
Who is someone that the listener should know about?
I would say there is this YouTuber, Strufless, I believe he's called. He makes, you could say, videos about your mindset, creativity, how to overcome. And it's funny, he has a video for every single stage of the process you're at, whether you're just beginning or you're in the thick of it. And what I like about his videos is that he's not just those people that talk in a circle for 20 minutes because he wants to monetize you. He actually does help and give advice. And one thing he said that I really enjoyed is that, you know what? You just have to draw the birds. It was one of his most popular videos. If you keep drawing the same thing every day for a year, you'll naturally get better at it. The issue is a lot of people, they want to draw a lot of different things. So they don't actually progressively get better. They just explore different things. It's I want to be a filmmaker, I want to be a fashion designer, I want to be a musician, I want to have a podcast. If you just did the podcast for a year, you'll get better at preparing, you'll get better at asking questions, you get better at editing, you also get better at actually listening to what someone's saying and not trying to get to the next question. If you did that for a year, oh my goodness, imagine the superhero you'll be in your own head. You'll be so ready. You'll probably be better at taking on job interviews or be interviewed yourself. Like there's so many benefits that come from just focusing on a certain task. And that's one thing that I had to battle with because I was at a crossroads and I wanted to do a lot of different things. And I just realized no matter how much I kind of ventured out, it all came back to I am a filmmaker. I tell stories, I produce. And that's it. I can do other things, of course, but that's what I'm going to focus on because I want to build one skill. And through being a producer, it allows me to be a better, listener because you have to listen to your head of departments. It allows me to be better at reading because as a producer, you read a lot of things. You read through budgets and everything else and scripts. And it's funny, if you focus on that one thing and refine it again and again, it sounds so boring because he wants to do one thing right. Life's about living. Everyone wants to be a multi hyphen, but within one task, it allows you to be great at many other things. And you just don't notice that. And when a skill compounds over time, that's when you become like a dangerous Swiss Army knife.
A dangerous Swiss Army knife. I like that. And what book do you think everyone should read?
There's okay. I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to say one, but I'm going to mention a few others. There's
Okay.
this one book. I know I don't. I should follow the rules. I know. I'm
No,
sorry.
I love it.
I'm going to break the rules today. There's one book called Powers of Two, right? And the reason why I forgot how I found out about this book, it was probably from Tim Ferriss and his book. So I read that book, or I probably picked who I wanted to read from. Probably didn't read the whole thing. And then this book came up, Powers of Two. The reason why I read this book is because I'm in a duo myself. My husband and I own a production company, Asari Sims. He's Asari, I'm Sims. We now have a baby whose last name is Asari Sims. And this was probably like 2017. I bought this book. And I was like, okay, I want to learn about the whole what is the point of a duo? Why is two the magic number that, why does that work? Why do we see a lot of duos? Maybe one's more famous or in the spotlight than the other. And you're gonna laugh at me. I haven't actually finished the book because I basically was obsessed with it, moved house, and then it just never got unpacked until I moved two houses later. But the reason why I recommend it is because I do think everyone needs somebody to keep them accountable. And that's the main thing I've learned so far. I'm about halfway through. There's this, okay, she works in a lab. I don't she's like a scientist. And she had this other scientist, they literally hated each other. He'd always try and disprove her theories. So what happened is it made her really work hard and make sure there was no room for her theories to be disproven. As much as their partnership was like hated by them both, it made them both better at their jobs. And I'm sure there's sports analogies like in basketball, I don't know, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, I think. There's always two people that allow each other to be better at what they do. Or there's two people in a relationship that push each other and they have, for example, my husband and I, he fills in my weaknesses and I can build on his strengths and vice versa. And that's what you want to be in. And if you're not directly working with someone, there's always going to be somebody that's maybe it's another business that you're in direct competition with, even though you're not really in competition, but you can see them as, okay, I want to surpass them. It's healthy to have a relationship with another person or another company. And that's what I liked about that book. And another book I'd recommend, even though it's a bit cliche, is Still Like an Artist because it's very natural as a creative to want to come up with things solely on your own and want to be completely original, especially in this day and age. I guess you could even start a whole podcast like on can you even be original anymore? Like it's I don't even know if you can, but learning how to reference, learning how to use your inspirations without directly copying. And I'll give you another link for the show notes. That's this video by Colin and Samir, who make videos about being a creator on the internet. They interviewed the author, and there was a YouTuber called Tommy in it. He literally was like, this guy copied my video word for word, frame for frame. But the video wasn't just like a generic video, it was a video based on his actual day and experience. So that's like me literally copying, making a course like yours, knowing that I'm not a designer. I do not make presentations, but so don't find a shortcut, especially in this day and age. It's so easy because you've got the internet, you can edit on your phone. You don't actually need to be trained to do a lot of things nowadays. But learning how to reference and pay homage and not rip people off is important because you'll make a lot of enemies. And a lot of people are very cultured. They will be able to see your influences in your work. And if you can't even cover it up by having about five influences, they're not going to respect you, unfortunately. They're going to think you're lazy. And they're going to think that, okay, this person thinks that to get to the top, it just means ripping people off. And you don't want to be that person. But Powers of Two, I'll say that one. I didn't know about it, but when I bought it, I was like, oh my goodness, it's hardback. Oh my gosh, it's gonna take up so much space. But it's really good. It's really good.
So I think now is a great opportunity to plug all your stuff. How can people hire Azari Sims? What kind of projects are you looking for right now? Where can people find you? What are your favorite channels for people to follow you on?
Do you know what? It's not that I'm not gonna answer the question, but I'm gonna say something that I think that can resonate.
Please.
So, a little bit of a story. Osiris Sims started in 2014. We were both in uni. We started dating and we realized, hey, we make films together really well. Let's start a company. Went to company's house, all of that boring, really technical stuff. Graduated. First year out, first month out, actually, we got paid very little money to make a film. But hey, we got paid, so we're a company, right? Got burnt out because was working on like project after project, did an independent feature film, started feeling, okay, am I fraud? I had a lot of people literally, I felt like barking at me, where's the film? Do this, do that. And I lost myself a bit and I started to hate making films. And I got a job as a content producer at a company because I felt like I could run away a little bit and have a bit of a breather. And, if you're a filmmaker, if you work at a company to be a content producer, nothing compares. Especially you're not an advertising agency. It's very relaxed, right? At the
Right.
company, I was the only person that did what I did. I could literally tell them that I needed a glass of water in order to film. Like they just didn't have any reference for what I did. And I was the only person that knew. So in that sense, I felt very safe. Nobody can challenge me. I know what I'm doing. But then that environment got very boring very quickly.
Hmm.
So then fast forward to today, literally today, we're actually in the process of relaunching the company because for a long time it was still registered, but we weren't doing anything with it because, like I said, I fell out of love with it. But now I'll say being pregnant, having a baby, it's made me realize that I actually want to make work for myself. And I work at an agency and it's great, but nothing compares to me thinking about, back in the day, Raf and I going out, filming, creating things, and, thinking about the script and the character designs and everything like that. We were looking at all of our old hard drives. I was like, wow, we actually used to go into a lot of detail for a university project. You'd think that we'll submit everything to a studio. So now we're relaunching and it's exciting. So the projects that we're working on right now is a fatherhood documentary. As he's a new dad, he's making a documentary about like fatherhood, interviewing other dads because there's not a lot of fatherhood documentaries. A lot of them are about motherhood or pregnancy. And we had our first shoot and it was so great. I was on set with baby in the sling and I was like, oh wow, this is me now. And yeah, I'm just really excited about the future. We invested in a new camera and gear, and I just say that to let people know that it's okay to fall out of love with what you're doing. Sometimes external forces can get in the way or cloud your judgment, or chasing the next job or the paycheck or the lack of money can make you just hate it. But take a break if you need to. There's no rush, there's no expiry date on creativity as well. Just because maybe you're not creating ideas as quickly or as fast, it doesn't mean that you are not as talented as you once were. If anything, everything you've done before makes you better than you were before. Even those feelings of doubt, it makes you stronger, it makes you more resilient. And where can you find us? We have an Instagram. It's got one post, but like I said, we're in the process of rebranding. But soon you'll be able to go on like asarisims.com and see our work. And we're looking to work with people that want to tell stories, you know. Even if you do want to sell hot sauce, we could make a story around that hot sauce, There are many ways to do it. And we're just building up our slate of independent films and projects. But we do like to collaborate with other brands and companies because it keeps you on your toes, it keeps you fresh. Because if you only work internally, you kind of become stale very quickly. And nobody challenges you as well until your films come out and you're just like, oh, geez, Louise, maybe we should have had the sounding board. But yeah, that's what we're working on right now. And yeah, the goal is to make Asari Sims the thing that is the main thing we're doing and build a legacy so that baby Asari Sims is like, yeah, I'm like baby Asari Sims, like having baby Disney, baby Pixar. That's what we want to do. That's the goal and the level we want to reach.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for hijacking that question.
You're welcome.
My last question for you is what makes a good story? I think like storytelling is one of those things that a lot of people like aspire to or have as part of their job, but it's elusive, I think. What's the fundamentals of it?
Okay, the fundamentals are it has to evoke emotion and the story has to be simple, but it doesn't mean the execution has to be simple. An example of that is, you know, everything everywhere all at once. That story is not, it doesn't seem simple because, the editing and it goes back and forth, but it's literally a story about, love and expectations and dealing with the pressure of the world that sometimes pulls you away from your family. And it sounds very simple, but it's up to you how to execute it, right? So, and it also has to evoke emotion. If there's no emotional stakes, nobody cares. If everyone's happy or everyone's sad all the time, that's boring. It has to have, it's like a roller coaster. You need ebbs and flows. And also a level of authenticity. It doesn't mean that you, the writer or the person making it, has been through it, but it has to stem from somewhere real. If it doesn't stem from anywhere real, it becomes disconnected. Even superhero films, they do touch on a level of authenticity that we can all deal with, whether you want to admit it or not. And also, a story is something that can be watched or experienced. So the reason I say that is a lot of people stand by, oh, I have an amazing idea. I have this script in the drawer. You will not believe it. It is so woo wow. I just need X amount of money. It's like, I can't, if you're trying to make a film, the script doesn't mean anything to me. I need to see, I need the mob file. I need to experience it. So the best stories are the ones that get made. And as you're new to making films, even myself, like, edits are never finished, they're abandoned because eventually you have to give up and just say, this, it is what it is. That sounds negative, but I'm sure you can relate to your work. Sometimes you just have to be, it is what it is. You can only design so much. Even with animation, I used to be envious of animators. I'm like, you can literally design your frames. I have to work with what I captured on the day, and I can't call back everyone. It's just not going to be the same continuity. I used to be so like, oh, but animators, they get to just infinitely draw and change. But no, everything has to be abandoned, or you'd be working on the same thing for the rest of your life. So, yeah, the best stories evoke emotion, are simple, and can be watched, and are abandoned as well.
Hmm.
Sounds negative, but it's true. Trust me. It sounds, but just like no, but it has to be abandoned because that you can work on something forever. I can refine a script from 2016 till now. There's probably somebody out there that has been doing that. But until it's a film, it doesn't count. And that sounds horrible. Unless your goal is to make the best screenplay, then fine. But what I understand is that screenplays are meant to be the blueprint for a film. And as a director gets attached, as it gets filmed, as it gets edited, that script becomes less and less of its original form. So yeah, it's about getting to the end product. And that's why I like technology, like the tech industry. They just always say things like, fail quickly. I'm just like, I wish we could.
Yeah.
But when it's creative, you get a bit more precious, right? Because I guess in tech, for the most part, it's about you got investors, they want you to hurry up and bring it to the market. Where in filmmaking and creativity, most of the time it's a passion project. So we're like, no, it needs to be perfect, but perfection doesn't exist. And perfection's boring. If something's perfect, look at those Oscar bait films. I'm not going to name any of them. They typically are one name of the main character. It's based on a true story. It's super duper sad, and it's probably more than 90 minutes. If you look currently at what people like to watch, people want to watch things that bring them into a world. We don't want
Hmm.
to just see moments being hit on this. Like, we're all very intelligent now. We know when, okay, this is when the funny part's going to happen. This is when this is going to happen. People want to be kept on their toes. Even though each film does hit somewhat the same mark, if the execution is different, or we're seeing different types of characters on screen, or we're not just seeing the same old people, it's in a different language, it's a different set. Something needs to give.
Right.
And that's what makes people want to engage with your work if you're not just doing what everyone else is doing or playing it safe. Because, You have to ask yourself, why are you playing it safe? You have the opportunity to be as crazy as you want to be. You haven't got investors breathing down your neck. You don't have to make double the money you put in. You could literally be experimental. So experiment. And if you don't like it, archive it. Nobody has to see it.
Right.
I think people aren't used to that. You can literally just don't even delete it. Just put it in a folder, call it archive, put it in there, never open it.
As someone that has one of those folders, I also find that if you hated it, then in the future, you're going to look back and you're going to be really like, it's going to make you smile. Even if you're still like embarrassed by it or not happy with it, it was like
Yeah.
it was a creation. And so that's like something you made.
That's so true. Like I said, we're going through our old hard drives. I found my first ever film I made. I watched it and I was like, you know what? I was like, this film is actually like really good. And then I found the behind the scenes video my husband made, and it's literally the main A cam is me being interviewed. It looks so different. The way I speak is so different. Even the sound of my voice is. I was like, oh, look at baby Shaneika, and I was like, it's on the internet. But I was like, yeah, let's put that up there because as a production company, when you look at companies like Pixar, Disney, you can watch their first ever film. Maybe at the time they were annoyed because of the constraints. Everyone has constraints. It might be technology, it might be time, it might be money, it might just be a lack of knowledge or knowing how to do something better, right? But with Pixar, with that film with the lamp, we all watch it. We're like, wow, can you believe that this was it? And now they're just like a whole universe. You have to appreciate where you come from, your humble beginnings. I know people that have literally like deleted, like full on deleted raw files. I'm just like, that is so not cool. Don't do that. Like
Yeah,
now we're like building our website up. I'm like, let's put the behind the scenes video. Am I gonna maybe cringe if I hear my I don't like people playing videos of me if I'm in the room.
sure.
That's my thing.
I
So
get that.
yeah, I'll probably cringe, but I would love for my son to be able to watch the behind the scenes of me making my first film with his dad. How crazy is that? Don't rob yourself of seeing how far you've come. We all come from somewhere. And if you come from your first film being absolutely perfect, you're lying because it's not perfect. Or you had too much help and it was not really your film or your design. I think there has to be more of appreciation in the journey, Zach. Especially the younger gen. I don't blame them. To make a TikTok takes 2 seconds. So to then the only people that might get it are the people that are doing actual jobs where you need to be qualified, like a doctor, a dentist, an engineer. You will understand the long game. You have to pass these exams. You have to do this level of study. And there's no cutting corners. You can order a fake degree, but we're not going to do that. Oh, we were going to do it for real. You have to do it. But in the creative space, there's a lot of cutting corners.
Yeah,
And now there's more technology. You could cut corners in other ways, but the truth will prevail. The people that work hard are the ones that will rise to the top. And if you cut corners, when you get to the top, you're going to sink because you're not going to know how to do it. I never forget, I won't say names. There's this guy, he's a photographer, right? He's worked with big brands, like think of the edgy magazines of the 2010s and everything. I was on set just like, helping out, and he did not even know how to set up lighting. I'm not joking. He did not know how to set up the lights. If anything, I think he broke one of the lights because he set it up wrong and the bulb burst. It does happen, but the reason it happened is because he set it up wrong. And then the studio manager was literally irate with him, but he let everyone stay because I guess it was a big payday and it was for a brand. And I was looking at this guy, I was like, how do you not know how to set up 3 point lighting? That's like the first thing, one of the first things you learn if you took the time to learn. But what you did, you took a shortcut, and now it's biting you in the bum because you're getting people like me and the other people to help you. And I'm not a photographer, but I knew how to set it up because my husband was actually really great because in uni they don't really teach you how to use cameras and stuff. They just kind of expect you to learn. But I used to be nervous. I used to shy away from it. I used to be like, I'm a writer. I don't do that. He was like, no, you're going to learn. And he literally sat me down, taught me how to use it. And now I just feel comfortable that if I do need to operate a camera, I can. If you shy away from your weakness, it's going to forever be your weakness and it's going to rear its ugly head in public. Without a doubt, in public, Zach. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to feel embarrassed. I start getting hot in the face, my armpits get prickly. I'm just like, oh, this is a horrible feeling, but just do not take shortcuts. When I saw that photographer go through that, I was like, how embarrassing is that? And then he got someone that I knew to teach him how to use the lighting in the end. Because if you skip it, you're gonna have to go back. It might not be today, but it'll be one day. You're gonna have to go back and relearn what you should have learned. So just be gentle. It takes time. You can't be one of the greats. Like, yeah, you can run before you can walk, but why would you want to do that? You probably hurt yourself. Learn to walk and then run. Don't just run. Yes. I feel like, you know what it is, Zach? I'm a chatterbox. You probably knew that going in already, but I can continue. But yeah, you need to stop me. But I'm just really passionate about people not taking shortcuts. And it's so easy now. It's so easy. I could probably make a whole fake portfolio website as a graphic designer with no graphic design skills.
Right.
Probably make a LinkedIn account using AI to write all these great things about me, and then get to the interview. If I've got the gift of the gab, get the interview, then sit at the job and be like, "I'm sorry." Because if look, this is what I say: if you can't do your job without googling how to do something on the internet, you need to learn some more. If
Yeah.
you're crying because the internet isn't working, what does that say? That's what I mic drop. I'm joking.
No, I think this is a great place to wrap up. Shanika, thank you so much for being on Bezier. I really appreciate your time and your insights. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I enjoyed it too, and I can't wait to hopefully engage with your community. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to tag Zach and myself. And I'm sorry, I'm just like willingly saying that. I just love these conversations. I think it's important that as a community, we talk and we engage and we don't just get stuck in our laptop screens. It's so easy. So yeah, thank you so much, Zach. I appreciate it.